Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Political Talks with JB. I am your host, Julian Boykin, and today I will be discussing week 3 of Civics 101. Tonight, we will learn what is county government and how it affects people more than they realize. Most people, they know their mayor. Fewer people know their county commissioner, but county government, it does affect your daily life more than you think. So we're going to look at Alabama counties, what they actually do, and why understanding them makes you a more informed, smarter voter, in my opinion. Anybody that doesn't live in the state of Alabama that would like a thorough breakdown of their state, please reach out to me at julianboykin.com. That's JULIAN, B as in boy, OYKIN.com. When you go to the website, you'll see a form that should say contact us or contact me. Click on that link, a form will appear. Leave your name, number, and a brief description of your state and what would you like me to talk about that pertains to your state as it relates to the positions and the duties. And I'll do my best to get that information sent out to you. Thank you. So let us get started. County government in Alabama. What is county government? So, your counties are your level of government that covers everyone, including the people outside the city limits. They manage services that cities either can't do or don't provide. So Alabama counties, we operate under state law, meaning the powers come from the Alabama legislature. So you got county commissioner. This is the heart of county government. County commissioner, they pass county ordinances, they approve the county budget. They also oversee county departments, maintain county roads and bridges. They allocate funding for the sheriffs, the courts, and public safety. They also set taxes within state limits. They represent districts across the county. So think of county commission as the board of directors for your particular county. To give you a better idea of when we talk about county government. So you got some key county officers. We're going to talk about those. One is the sheriff position. So your sheriff is elected county-wide. So recently we had an election for Morgan County Sheriff. So based on your address, if you live within a certain county and you're a registered voter, you will be eligible to go and vote for your next county sheriff. The sheriff is a countywide law enforcement. They also manage the jail operations, court security, and the civil process service. So your probate judge is another county-wide elected position. So for your probate judge, that's where you go for your marriage licenses, your wills and estates, guardianships, mental health commitments. Many counties, elections, administration, things of that nature. Next, you have your tax assessor and tax collector. That position determines your property value. They collect your property taxes. They fund schools, county services, and public safety. Then we have your county commissioner or county manager, just depends on how your county has it labeled. They run day-to-day operations. They implement commission decisions. They ensure compliance with state law. So county versus city, just a quick comparison. City government, they're responsible for police, city roads, city ordinances, utilities, zoning inside the city limits. County government, a little different. You have your sheriff, your county roads, your county ordinances, your rural services, election administrations in a lot of counties, and your county-wide taxes. So if you live outside the city limits, the county is your primary government. So how does county government touch day-to-day life? So with county government, the road you drive on, that's the county commission responsibilities. Your property tax bill, that falls on the tax assessor and collector. When you see a sheriff patrolling the rural communities, rural areas, that falls under the sheriff's office. If you need a marriage license, that falls under your probate judge. If you, when we're talking about voting location and the ballot style, that falls on the probate judge / your election officials. We talk about school funding, that's county commission plus the school board. When we talk about land use and zoning, that's county commission as well. So county government is the quiet engine behind your everyday life. County officials are elected. Your commissioners are elected by the district that you live in. Your sheriff, that's a county-wide position. Your probate judge, that is another county-wide position. Your tax assessor slash collector is a countywide position. Elections in Alabama are partisan, meaning you either you're either a registered Republican or you're a registered Democrat. Yes, we do have independent candidates that run as well. So, but we do when it boils down to it, you'll see Republican candidates as well as Democratic candidates on the ballot. You will see some independent candidates as well. So you do have that option. And for those of you that want to run in Alabama and you don't want to run as a Republican or Democrat, you have that option of running as an independent. I know certain positions may or may not allow that. Don't hold that to me though. Don't hold me on that. You know, those officials that I just named, they make decisions that affect your taxes, your roads, your safety. But many voters don't know who they are. So, in closing out, I would love to encourage people, county government. That's one of the most important, most overlooked parts of Alabama's political system. When you understand it, that allows you to become a smarter voter, more informed voter. Because once you understand what the duties and responsibilities of a probate judge, a tax assessor, a sheriff, county commissioner, now when you look at the candidates, you're not just looking at the who, you can look at the what. What being, what are the duties and responsibilities? So when candidates start giving their pitch, their elevator pitch or their elevator speech, you can listen and understand and say, well, that doesn't gel or doesn't match the duties and responsibilities. 9 times out of 10, if the candidate is giving you their speech, the elevator speech, and it doesn't match the duties and responsibilities, it's not going to match your core values. So that's the part of becoming a smarter, more informed voter, is where I'm speaking from that standpoint, that lane. Being able to understand when you talk about the county commissioner, when you talk about the sheriff, when you talk about a probate judge, you actually understand what the duties are. You actually are aware of, okay, I'm not a subject matter expert, but I do know the duties and the responsibilities, and what you're saying does not make sense to me right now. So I'm not going to vote for you. Now, with that being said, voting is very difficult. Once you become informed, you become engaged, and you become a little bit more educated on the what I call the foundational principles of voting is not just knowing who the candidates are, but knowing what the duties and responsibilities are for each position. Once you understand the duties and responsibilities, it gets a little easier as far as being able to decipher who you may or may not vote for. But now you got to figure out, okay, which candidate best align with my core values, because it's not as easy as it seems. Where okay, well, according to Julian, all I got to do is figure out which candidate speaks to the duties and responsibilities, and that might be the best candidate for me. I can't make that decision. I can't tell you, that's the case. But I can tell you this: you have to figure out which candidate best align with your core values, you as an individual. If you're married, it's you as the household. Which candidate best align with the family's core values, things of that nature. Sometimes you may get down to it and it's, hey, you got two candidates and they're very similar when you talk about their platform, their campaign. It aligns with some of the duties and responsibilities, and it aligns with your core values. With that, I don't, it's a toss up, and it's one of those things where you as the individual, you have to make that decision and be confident in the decision that you're making and why. you know so for me, when you understand the duties, when you understand the responsibilities, now you become a voter that's a little bit more smarter. You can advocate better, you can strengthen your community based on, now you can educate people on how to look for the what and not just the who. And I think in America, when as I grow in more and more in the political world, I notice something. We focus on the candidate, but we never talk about it. We never focus on what are the duties, what are the responsibilities, so the voter can understand. Okay, what am I voting for? I know you're telling me who to vote for, but what am I actually voting for? If I vote for this person, how do they affect my daily life? How do they affect things that I may or may not take for granted? You know, tax assessment. That's where you pay your property taxes. So you got to be careful and make sure you don't vote for somebody that's trying to raise your property taxes to a point where you may or may not be able to afford them. Little things like that, simple things like that can really make a voter sit down and say, okay, hey, let me dig into this a little bit more. Let me take my time and understand what am I doing when I'm trying to vote for somebody? How does it affect me? How does it affect my county? How does it affect everything else that surrounds me? So in closing, I just want to make everybody become better informed voters. I believe if you inform voters, you strengthen your communities. When you strengthen the communities, now you have an impact on projecting a better future, not just for you, but for the generation that has to come behind you. So thank you everybody for your time. If you have any questions, please feel free to you can text me 256-701-0464, or you can send me a message on my website at julianboykin.com. Thank you for your time. Best of luck to you guys. I know election season is upon us, so if you got any questions, please feel free to ask, and have a great day.